Hello, welcome back to my astrology channel. This is Jo, and today I'll be speaking about the full moon in Taurus. So this will be occurring at 24 degrees of Taurus on the dot on Saturday, the 16th of November at about 8:30 Australian Eastern Daylight Time. So the full moon is the midpoint of the full lunar cycle before it starts moving away from the sun again and the light of the moon starts decreasing. We see the full moon and we feel the full moon as a culmination, things coming to a head, heightened energy, heightened sensitivity. It can be an illumination or a climax of a situation. All of these strong energies that we have at the full moon on the 16th of November are around all of these Taurus themes. So primarily it is our values, what we value and what we find worth in and what we find worthy of our time and our energy, and also to our self-worth and how we value ourself. And in terms of this, it is about our finances, and it's also about our stability and our foundations. It's the first earth sign of the zodiac, and it is a fixed sign. So it is solid, it is stable, it needs security more than any of the other signs. So these are the issues that could be very highlighted and thrown into prominence at this time. Taurus rules things like our environment, the ground upon which we walk, and it could be illuminations or big themes coming up right now in terms of environmental issues, anything to do with shaking up the agricultural industry, as well as finances, the financial world. There could be changes in banks, in the stock market, in these types of fields, because Taurus also rules out resources. It could even be things coming to light in terms of our food industry, because Taurus also rules our body and our senses. And in a way, it is also how we feed and nourish our body with the moon here in Taurus. Another interesting thing to note is that this full moon is also a supermoon, which means that the moon is at its perigee or closest point of orbit to the Earth. So the moon will appear larger, but also it's like a full moon enhancement because it's closer to Earth, it's closer to home. We could be feeling more emotional than usual. This is big emotions because the moon rules our emotions. These heightened senses, our heightened sensitivities, our heightened emotions that are already ramped up generally at a full moon could be even more so. And every single theme that I will be talking about in this discussion about the full moon, all of these energies are rather amplified and rather strongly felt because this is a supermoon. One of the strongest, plainest themes of this full moon is about our emotional foundations. Emotional, the moon, our foundations, Taurus. It's very interesting because the most scintillating thing we have about this full moon is that it is conjunct the planet Uranus at 25 degrees of Taurus, 17 minutes retrograde. And this has been a really interesting time, interesting energy with Uranus moving through Taurus, because Uranus is the archetype of change, freedom, liberation, the lightning bolt that strikes and changes a situation, whether we like it or not, moving through the sign of I don't want change. I never want to change. I want things to stay secure and the same forever. So it's that energy of, as I said in my Scorpio season video, if you watched that, it's the energy of this unstoppable force of Uranus meeting the immovable, unchangeable energies of Taurus. So at this time, our foundations and our sense of security, our sense of stability can be getting a very strong shake-up. And this doesn't have to be a bad thing. It could be breaking free. It could be a liberation in terms of self-love. I can see this as a revolution of love, a revolution of the heart, because Taurus is ruled by Venus, which is about our heart, our desires, what we want. All of these things could be getting this sense of instability, but not necessarily throwing us into chaos if we're working with these energies. We can work with them very constructively because we could be liberated from any of these fixed energies that we could have possibly been feeling stuck in. So what the full moon does is it is an illumination of what we've been moving through in a sun season cycle. So the sun, as I said, is in Scorpio, and the sun's journey through Scorpio is how we are consciously identifying with our deepest emotions and passions. It could be our inner underworld, our demons, our complexes, our psychology, how we're consciously identifying with our sense of power and empowerment, or our relationship with, or how we're dealing with or identifying with external power. It can be about how we're moving through secrets and lies and betrayals or violations, even traumas. It can speak about our shared resources, especially joint finances or joint money investments or partnerships or ownerships, but also sharing in the sense of union and intimacy, and especially sexuality as well. So what we're consciously working with in Scorpio season is all of these things. And then the moon comes along, and at this full moon, it's opposing this sun in Scorpio. So it's an illumination not only of these moon in Taurus themes that I've been speaking about, but it's in opposition to or in tension with all of these things we've already been moving through in Scorpio season. So it could be a culmination of all of these things. And this Uranus conjunct the moon can be the shake-up, change, and liberation that we might need, from breaking us free from any of these deep, dark, intense things we've been moving through. And on the Scorpio journey, as I've said before, it's about moving through that dark night of the soul, facing our fears, facing our demons, and becoming empowered, and really, really getting in touch with our true passions and true deep emotions. And the whole process is about the cycles of transformation that we go through to shed one skin and begin anew in a new skin. And it's still us, but we are empowered and changed. So with the moon in Taurus here, conjunct Uranus, which means Uranus is opposing the sun, it won't become exact until the next day on the 17th, but it is still most definitely in orb. All of these deep, intense Scorpio themes could be becoming more brought to the light, because with the sun moving through Scorpio, the sun's already been shining a light on these things, but at the full moon and with Uranus opposing the sun, it's a trigger, it's an activation, but most of all, it's an awakening. Uranus is the great awakener. It's the God mind, the cosmic mind, the mind of quote unquote God, source, universe, whatever that means for you. And it's an up leveling. And in Taurus, conjunct the moon, it's an up leveling of what we need to feel secure in terms of our heart, in terms of our self-worth and self-values, and how that is reflecting of the way we move around in our everyday life and what we're building to feel secure. What are the foundations that we've made that we're standing on in terms of, yes, our life as a whole, but also in our internal world, because it's the moon, it's our inner world, it's our subconscious, it's what we need to feel safe, what we need to feel nurtured. Uranus is saying, wake up. This is what you need. You need the shake-up. You need this self-love. You need this self-worth. You need this change in values. You need to awaken to where your values are really coming from, opposing the sun maybe in Scorpio, these deeper complexes that are feeding into your value systems that you haven't been aware of how they've developed throughout time. And now the Great Awakener is coming along, triggering this Sun in Scorpio journey and blending with the energies of this fruitful, abundant, rich, sensuous, loving moon in Taurus. The moon is actually exalted in Taurus. It does very well. And I'm getting that the changes that we could be going through are all for our good. It's incredibly uncomfortable because these fixed signs can't stand change. They can't stand to be pushed. They can't stand to be forced. They're stubborn. They're called fixed for a reason. But Uranus has been moving through Taurus for long enough now that perhaps if we've been resisting change, we've perhaps become more open or aware of the idea of it. And this Great Awakener now on the same point of this full moon is saying, wake up to where your values come from. Wake up to where your sense of self-love, self-acceptance, and self-worth comes from, and liberate yourself from anything that's restricting you or blocking you from evolving. The moon is also interestingly in orb of a trine to Pluto, still on that 29 degree of Capricorn. Only for a few days more, it will tip into Aquarius on the 20th of November. And when it does, the ruler of Pluto will be Uranus in Taurus. So it's feeding into this theme of transformation, destruction, and rebirth of the structures in our life with Pluto in Capricorn. I sound like a broken record, but it's feeding so favorably and harmoniously into this lunation with Uranus here, and saying that these changes or transitions or giant shifts are all positive, or you will look back and know, yes, that was a good thing for me. It had to end. This is for our evolution. This is for our enrichment. And the trine to Pluto could be really utilizing the momentum. Pluto could be utilizing the momentum of this full moon to finally move on and finalize whatever we've been going through with this Pluto and Capricorn journey and this 29 degree story that's been going on for nearly 2 years. It's like a jump starter, like a boost or a lift off into what we will now be evolving into once Pluto moves into Aquarius. Aquarius, the sign of freedom. These changes are for the good. This transformation is for the good. It's for your safety with the moon here. It's for your safety, for your well-being. I'm just getting, it could be really what you need, because the moon is our needs. The minor grand trine that we have between Uranus and Pluto, both sextiling Neptune in Pisces. Because the full moon is on the same degree as Uranus, this is activating this configuration. So I've spoken about this minor grand trine before. This Pluto and Neptune have been in sextile since the 1940s, and it's not going to separate until the 2030s. And it's part of a 500-year cycle between these two. So these are outer planets. They move very slowly. This aspect has been an ongoing theme of the collective's soul evolution, our frequency evolution. It's the archetype of this deepest self, which is Pluto, Lord of the underworld, in communion with our highest self, which is Neptune, which is the connectedness of all, the love of the cosmos. And it's these two forces blending together in the most harmonious of ways to feed our frequencies, our energies, our karmic evolution, our soul evolution, in an unfolding story of this transformation through our increased connection to all and connection to our innermost self. It's a very mystical aspect. And with Uranus transiting Taurus, it is forming the third point of this minor grand trine, which is the freedom and the revolution and thereby evolution that we go through because of this process of connectedness to all by being connected to our deepest self. And the sense of freedom that we feel and experience when we are aware of the greater whole, the broader cycles, and the enlightenment that we undergo by moving through this journey. This is a background collective theme, but this full moon is now throwing it into prominence because it is sitting on one of the points of this triangle because of this Uranus moon conjunction. So it could also feel so strongly, because the moon is our feelings and it's so strong at this supermoon, that this is what we need. Moon in Taurus is our needs. This is what we need for our security. This is what we need for our worth and our love. This evolution, this understanding, this connection is so required as part of our basic needs now, because as humanity and the collective, we have evolved so much, both consciously, emotionally, spiritually. So many more people are now so awake to themselves, so awake to the broader cycles and the energies of the collective as a whole, that this understanding that we are all connected, and this understanding that we move through these cycles, yes, at a very deep personal individual level, but also collectively as well, is so required. Taurus is our basic requirements. And because we've all up-leveled energetically so drastically, the full moon is showing us how much these higher frequency energies are so necessary and so now a part of our daily life, and highlighting how good this is for our health, our emotional health with the moon, our physical health with Taurus, our energetic and spiritual health with Neptune involved. And because all of these aspects are about a harmonious flow, it's feeding us, it's enhancing us, it's benefiting us so strongly right now, whether we're consciously aware of it or not. The sun is making a few interesting aspects as well. It's been at the apex of a configuration called a yod, which is a 150-degree quincunx angle to both Chiron retrograde at 19 degrees of Aries and Jupiter retrograde at 19 degrees of Gemini. These two have been traveling in an ongoing aspect called a sextile. I spoke about it in my first Scorpio season video. It's about the journey of putting any puzzle pieces together that you are needing for a healing journey to understand, become conscious of, and this understanding leading to the healing of a sense of confidence, the healing of a sense of self and identity and who am I. With these 250-degree quincunx angles to the sun in Scorpio, the sun is at the apex of this configuration. These angles are about a discomfort or a disharmony or things just not quite fitting together, because this angle represents two signs that have absolutely nothing in common whatsoever. Even signs in opposition have something in common because they're both either a yin and yang energy, masculine or feminine. But in a quincunx angle, it's a point that does not share a quality, it does not share an element, it does not share a masculine or feminine. It has absolutely nothing in common, no common ground, and it's really, really weird and uncomfortable, putting you on edge, but it's not something you can work through or necessarily resolve in a regular way because there's nothing to connect the dots with. And this is possibly one of the most creative. It's full of potential because things that are different can give so much to each other. And it's accepting the discomfort, just acknowledging that it's there, but moving through the process anyway. So with this healing journey through understanding, with this Chiron and Jupiter that you may be moving through, the sun here is just highlighting that this can be quite an uncomfortable journey, because putting these puzzle pieces together, your conscious ego might not like what you're having to dig up because the sun's in Scorpio, what you're having to sift through, what you're having to dive deep to help integrate into your understanding to fuel this healing journey. Like you're confronting things or moving through things that could maybe be unpleasant or uncomfortable, but because there is so much creative potential here, this aspect is saying that it's by facing these ugly, uncomfortable parts of us that are really helping this healing journey. And this ongoing aspect is just highlighted, of course, at this full moon because the full moon illuminates things. So this could be quite a prevalent energy at this time. The sun is also trining Neptune. This is lovely. Neptune is retrograde in Pisces, still at 27 degrees. This could be the safe haven to go to decompress. This is a harmonious angle. These are two water signs, Scorpio and Neptune, that work favorably together. This could be remembering to go to that place that you need to go to rest your ego, to stop your mind, to sleep, to calm your consciousness and diffuse all of these wild and intense energies. And ultimately, because Neptune is about the connectedness of all things, it's about trusting in the universe and knowing that everything that we're moving through right now, despite the difficulty or intensity, everything is going to be okay. And the universe has got you. This is quite a high vibe lunation because the moon and the sun are making aspects and touching all of the outer planets. We've got Jupiter and Chiron, we've got Uranus, we've got Pluto, we've got Neptune. All of these are the outer planets. These are none of the personal planets. So it's really an up-leveling and upgrading. The energies could feel big. The energies could feel too big for you to grasp or too big for you to work with, even overwhelming, because there's such a high frequency energy at this time. Your nervous system could feel overloaded. But one of the beautiful things about Taurus is that it is grounded. And it could be about grounding all of these high vibe, high frequency, big themes, big shifts that we're moving through and simplifying them and grounding them. Taurus loves simplicity. It's the basic things, the simple things that we need in our life, and simplicity as a principle. And that is such a gift during times like these. The ruler of this lunation is Venus, because Venus rules Taurus. She has just moved into Capricorn, and at the time of the full moon, she is in a square aspect to the North Node in Aries and the South Node in Libra. So when a planet is in aspect to the nodes, it's automatically a soul/energetic/karmic evolution, whichever word you choose to connect with. And with Venus here, this is that karmic evolution of the heart, of our desires. And because it's a square aspect, she's at the apex of a T-square, which is like a stuck, tense kind of an energy. And with the two nodes here at their polarities, it could be a rejig or a readjust. So this nodal journey that we're going through of, with the South Node releasing how we could be tied up with others, because Libra is the sign of the other or relating or relationship, or releasing what is no longer in alignment, releasing what is causing us imbalance or disharmony. That is linked to us stepping into our true self with the North Node in Aries. This journey is being triggered by the ruler of the South Node. Venus is also the ruler of Libra. So she's ruling this South Node that she's currently squaring and activating this T-square. And she's saying, make your heart the boss, make your heart the authority. Capricorn is very much boss-like energy. It's by following your heart and putting your heart in charge that you can more easily embody your authentic self, the North Node in Aries. And right relationship flows from this South Node in Libra. You cannot relate harmoniously with anything if you are not in a right relationship to yourself. And with this square to the nodes from Venus, it's about the heart. And in Capricorn, it's about being in your authority. It could even be about also having healthy boundaries, because Capricorn is the one that, can put up the restrictions and the walls that are too high. But it's about how we have those walls and stoppers for our own benefit. This could be tying into this nodal karmic theme of moving through even a self-discovery journey with the North Node in Aries. That's very much tied in with what we must let go of in terms of people or things that are keeping us in disharmony or an imbalanced relationship. This theme is also prominent because she's ruling this full moon. And the ruler of this full moon, I know it's like a connect the dots, bear with me. The ruler of this full moon is Saturn. Saturn rules Venus. And on this day of the full moon, could have happened any time, but it's happening on the day of the full moon, he is stationing direct, which means that he is no longer in his retrograde journey. He's put on the brakes and he is now going to move into forward motion. Saturn is also the lord of karma. So this is really tying in with Venus squaring the nodes here, especially because he is ruling Venus as she is in his home sign of Capricorn. So now this journey that we've been going through with Saturn retrograde in Pisces, which is about those boundaries that I was talking about before, they could have been going through a reassessment or reinforcement. And was about this inner journey of how with Pisces, our visions or our dreams, our energy, our sense of connectedness, our spirituality, whatever that means for you, how all of that is fitting practically into our reality, and how it's bringing all of these sacred high vibe parts of yourself into your everyday life and really putting it into the 3D. This could also have been a disillusionment process because Saturn is very realistic, Pisces is not. So with Saturn moving through Pisces, he could have been taking off those beer goggles we could have been wearing and not seeing clearly, or seeing too idealistically or through rose-colored glasses any aspect of our life in terms of our career, our systems, our structures, any of these quote unquote adult things, mature and responsible things that maybe we haven't been dealing with healthily or constructively. With him moving retrograde through Pisces, this was very much about us lifting that veil and now being able to move forward practically and seeing things more clearly with more reality. It could also have been crystallizing something, anything that before could have only been in our imagination. And as I said in my part 2 Scorpio season video, because the station dates are always a bit of a wobbly, uncertain, tenuous, liminal kind of a time, because it takes time for the planet to fully stop and then to fully move forward and get the pace up again. It's that transition time. This liminal space would be providing whatever this full moon is bringing to you at this time. It could almost feel like it could be coming up from the void. It could be coming up from some space that you couldn't have imagined it could come from, but now it's there. It's in reality. And it's about bringing all of his bigger, life-changing soul evolution energies down to earth with the full moon in Taurus. Okay, so moving along now to the tarot, I am again using the Dark Goddess Tarot by Ellen Lorenzi Prince. The card that I pulled is the Strength card, which is very reassuring because the Strength card traditionally deals with inner fortitude and courage. Even if it heralds trying times, it's about managing these energies with wisdom that leads to healing. And it's a very loving energy. With strength, it's not like Herculean strength, like winning or forcing anything, nothing to do with control or overpowering or repression. It's about the taming of forces and the humility, grace, and acceptance that is necessary to move through these bigger energies, to move through any difficulties. It is the 8th card in the major arcana of the tarot, and 8 again is a power number. It is about infinity and cycles and transformation. This is all very strong Scorpio and Pluto energy. It can highlight where strength and where power has been out of balance, where it has been poorly managed, and it teaches us about taming our own overpowering urges, taming our own primal instincts, not by controlling them, but by acknowledging them and working with them. The ladies from Literature, Jen Cowney and Fiona Lensfeld, say the Strength card is asking you, how do you handle yourself? How do you face yourself? And another thing is about radical self-acceptance. Uranus is nothing if not radical. And as I've been speaking about these strong Taurus themes, it's about self-love and self-worth. And the Strength card here is saying that the way forward in being grounded in self-love, self-worth, and acceptance, and the way to really tap into abundance is by making peace with these messy or ugly or uncultured parts of the self that we've repressed or stifled or excluded, or perhaps we've never allowed ourselves to even accept. And acknowledging these instincts or these drives or these underworld with Pluto and with the Sun in Scorpio here, these underworld issues that we're really being forced to face. And especially with Uranus conjunct the full moon at this time, it's about letting them out to be seen, letting them out to be loved. It's freeing them by looking at them and accepting them. Freedom will come from this. And going back to that radical self-acceptance, it's really feeding into that revolution of love that I was talking about, revolution of the heart. It's by loving all parts of yourself and not controlling or repressing the parts that you deem unacceptable or unworthy. It's the strength, the fortitude, the endurance, very Taurus words, that comes from this. This card also speaks about courage. It takes a lot of courage to face your fears, face your demons and monsters. And you can't do that by slashing a sword and fighting against them. It doesn't work. The Strength card is saying that you come to the table and you manage it, you face it. And this is strength. This is what the Strength card speaks about. Usually when it does come up, it means that there are trying times ahead, or we're already in a very trying time. But it's the reassurance that we have what it takes. We have the heart, we have the love, we have the courage to face anything. And how do you face yourself? How do you handle yourself? Could you be handling yourself with more love? The goddess on this Strength card is Samovila, who was the Slavic guardian of the forest. And she speaks about using careful force and using practical wisdom. Very Taurian. This card even looks very Taurian, very earthy, very nature-based. And it could just be a reminder to remain grounded, keeping things simple, going back to basics, laying one brick at a time, putting one foot in front of the other at a time, taking things at your own pace, because these energies that we're going through are rather wild and are tapping into this acceleration of frequency, this acceleration of evolvement and pace. And if everything feels too big for you right now, I feel like it's the basic, simple, practical steps that we take to fulfill our needs that could be the most beneficial, supportive force at this time. So back to Samovila, she was the guardian of the forest. She was the protectress of the forest. She could be forceful in punishing any trespassers. So she's speaking about having firm boundaries here, but she was also very lively, very playful, and apparently loved to dance. And this is really feeding into that abundant and fruitful Taurus energy at this full moon. And it was said that her circle dances created the glades of the forest. This, for me, is really about our physical embodiment as a powerful force of creation. When we are present in our body, centered in our heart, grounded and solid in our sense of self-worth, there are no limits to what we can create for our abundance. Samovila was a shapeshifter. She wore white mist and feathers, which is reminiscent of the swan maidens in all of these Eastern European fairy tales. So it's, again, this transformation story with this number 8. And we've got the Sun in Scorpio, and we've got a very prominent Pluto right now. This is also speaking about the transformations that we go through and how we can remain grounded and secure through all of these processes. by staying true to our heart with the Strength card here. The bear here is representative of power, and yet it is calm, it is placid in the company of this goddess. So, which is really a reflection of how we don't need to put chains or something or repress something powerful to feel safe around it. It's about working in harmony. This is about balancing that wildness with our inner strength, and how that in itself is a creative force that can give us fertility, abundance, and empowerment. It's about meeting these wild, raw parts of ourselves and acknowledging them for the powerful forces that they are. And I am just getting that this could be a purification process in terms of even what we have demonized within ourselves, either because of external conditioning or our own internal monsters, the things that aren't necessarily demons. They are simply the forces within ourselves that we don't know how to handle, and they're being thrown into light at this time for us to acknowledge and accept and be able to manage in a healthy way, even in a creative way or a profitable way. I'm just getting the word profitable because Taurus is about finance and abundance. This could be an incredibly fruitful, fertile time for us to reap any rewards that we have worked really hard for. And those aren't necessarily themes of the Strength card. Those are just themes that I'm getting right now. But the Strength card, I feel, is also really linked to the Sun in Scorpio and the strong Pluto that we have, because it's the alchemy. Scorpio speaks of alchemy, Pluto speaks of alchemy, the blending, the mixing, and the flow of disparate elements that come together to form a new entity. And that is the Strength card, reflecting that in balancing the wild, the raw, the untamed, or even the repressed, scary monsters or demons within ourselves, balancing that with the so-called cultured or conscious or socially proper parts of ourselves. The moon, remember, is our subconscious, and the sun is our conscious, and the full moon is an illumination of those things that perhaps we didn't see before, acknowledge before. And the Strength card is just really honing in on not having to shy away from those raw subconscious parts of ourselves that can filter upwards sometimes, that we feel very uncomfortable around. It's about working with them, and that radical self-love, radical self-acceptance that will lead to this understanding that you are whole and you are strong and you are your own unified entity, and you can handle anything that comes your way. Taurus is tough. Taurus is tenacious. Taurus can endure and endure and endure. And the Strength card is really reiterating that you have the strength and fortitude that it takes to move through any of these demons that you could be experiencing, whether inner or outer, at this time. I also got the message that it's important at this time to move your body. Samavila danced in the forest. I'm not saying you have to dance, but keeping your physical body active and healthy, eating clean, could be really crucial at this time, because these energies are so big. Anything that you can do to nourish your body, because the moon and Taurus do both rule the body and our physical embodiment. This could really help to stay grounded, really help to stay clear during these times. And returning to your body consciousness could be one of the most beneficial things we can do during this full moon. So that's it for my talk on the full moon in Taurus. I hope you enjoyed it. Do let me know what you think if you have any feedback. I hope you have the most wonderful, abundant, sparkly full moon, and I will see you in my next video.